I like something you said in our last broadcast for last year, that the kind of start you have is critical in having a good year. What would you recommend, if any, for somebody to at least do in the first days, the first weeks, the first couple of weeks in the year? What should be the present thing?
I mean, there's a trend that has developed in the Christian world, in most churches these days, and that is in January, a lot of churches have some event or the other. Most of it will involve prayer, it will involve fasting, it will involve some kind of spiritual activity. And I think it's a good thing for people to start the year prayerfully and to start reflectively and to start committing their ways to the Lord and trusting God. It's just that I hope the prayers do not become desperate prayers of anxiety and fear, but prayers of hope and trust in who God is. And I think it's important, whatever spiritual exercises people go through at the beginning of the year, either as a family, as a church, as a group of friends, it's important to set that spiritual tone to guide us through the rest of the year.
Let's talk about healthy spiritual disciplines and habits, habit formation. How important is this in defining how the year will go?
I mean, there are routines of the Christian life, the Christian disciplines like constant or regular reading of the Bible, regular prayer, regular time of fellowship. These are all important, regular studying and being taught the Word of God. These are routine. But sometimes at the beginning of the year, we make extra commitments. So somebody would say, you know what, this year I want to read through the whole Bible. So I'm going to read X number of chapters every day. Or this year I want to read through all the Gospels 3 times. Or this year I want to read this or that or that. So those are extra to what we do routinely. Or this year I want to spend more time in prayer. So you make time for that. Or this year I want to do A or B. So on top of what we do regularly, all of us make some top-up commitments to enhance what we do routinely. But the top-up shouldn't become the routine. There has to be a routine which you do constantly, and then you have your top-up activities to enhance what you do routinely.
So we shouldn't neglect our lives without building quality routines and then all of a sudden wake up in emergency or urgency mode and try and cover everything at one go.
No, it doesn't work that way. You know, I believe life, just like life grows. Life doesn't grow in drama. You know, I'm sure you know it. When I was growing up, by the time I was probably about 8, 9, 10, 11, one of the comments I would hear all the time, people who would visit me and my parents would say, "Hey, you're growing tall. You've grown. And when they say that, I wonder, what have I'm just
The same.
I'm still Mensa. I haven't gone anywhere. But because growth is not obvious to me, but that growth which somebody sees after a period of time happens constantly and daily. And that's how life grows. It doesn't grow in drama. It grows in discipline, in things you do constantly, even when you don't see results. You just keep at them because they are good habits. Good habits like prayer, good habits like studying the Bible, good habits like reading a book a week. These are habits you build, and it may not give you immediate results, but over time you realize you've built this reservoir of faith, reservoir of confidence in God, reservoir of wisdom and intelligence, because you practice these things routinely.
Will that be one of your personal secrets as a leader and a pastor?
I commit myself to a lot of daily activities. One of the things I realized quite early, was that I wasn't bright. I wasn't a bright student. I wasn't brilliant. The only way I could survive was to work extra hard. So working extra hard is always my go-to place, and being disciplined is always my go-to place. I'm not one of those people who will just do nothing and then be good. There's nothing I'm good at that way. Everything I'm good at, I practice it over and over and over and over.
I'm joining our viewers and listeners to dissociate ourselves with the first part and align ourselves with the second part.
Yeah.
But something about what you're saying tells me that those who rely on a big break, on luck, on a sudden burst of energy and opportunity are setting themselves up for ultimate disappointment.
I am a big believer in habits, process, discipline. If I get to do something, I just grasp it like a crab holding something. I don't let it go. So most things I do in my life I've been doing for a very long time, and I do it all the time.
You don't get bored?
I don't even know whether I get bored. And does an engine get bored? An engine follows routine. The heartbeat follows routine. So I like routines. I like doing things over a long period of time. And sometimes I do them without even knowing what I'm gaining from them. But I do them.
Take us into the engine of consistency and resilience.
I mean, it's like building on everything, whether it's building your stamina, building your body, you do little things over and over before you realize your muscles have hardened, your stamina has increased, and you can do it over a longer period of time. And I feel those principles work on various levels of our lives. People want to make money, for example. How are you going to make money? I mean, you're going to hope that either money is dumped on you supernaturally, or you're going to work towards something and work with things like saving money and saving routinely, having a budget you work with, work with things like improving your skills, becoming better at what you do, being able to do the same things you do in a shorter time. So that what I used to do in 1 hour, I now do in 10 minutes. So now I've saved 50 minutes to do something else, building new skills, new ability, going the extra mile. You are told to do something and you decide, I'll do better than that. I will improve on my work. I work somewhere, but I would be the best worker here. I'll be an expert in my field. And I'm going to do that by investing in this and that and that. And personally, anything that I do to improve myself, I make sure I pay for it.
Why?
Because it has to cost me something. Knowledge has to cost me. What I do must cost me. In those early years of computers, when people were bootlegging computer applications like Microsoft Word, somebody would go and copy it, and everybody would want to put it on their computer, or they get an application, and people would just try to get it. I didn't do that. I feel anything that I need to improve my life, I must pay for it. I must feel that I've invested value in that thing. And so that in doing it or in using it, I can appreciate the outcome from it. So it's just the way my mind works.
Is that where the strength comes from to stay with it when you finish investing in it?
Of course. I mean, if you pay for it, what are you going to do? You pay for the program, you better participate, So you register for a webinar and you are tired. You have to listen to it because you've paid for it. You register for a course, you have to complete it. So when things are free, sometimes we are very casual about it.
Somewhere in the point you just made, I'm recognizing that you did not have an external locus of control of somebody who would help you, somebody who will guide you, somebody who must do something so you do what you have to do. How important is this ownership or taking responsibility of that journey that a person embarks on in the year?
I mean, I think people are different. Some people need to be guided before they take off on their own. Some people need a supervisor before they perform. I am different in that regard, and I thank God for that. But I don't presume that everybody is like me, who has the inner ability to start and stay with something. So for some people, they may need a mentor, a coach, a guidance system, a helper. And if you are that kind of a person where you know that on my own, I'm not able to do this, and on my own, I'm lazy, I can't read a book, I start a book, I don't finish, I start a course, I don't complete, I make promises to myself and I fail. I mean, by just self assessment, you know, this is what I am. I'm not able to stay with things by myself. Then you need somebody to guide you. And it may not be somebody big. It can even be your peer, just an accountability, somebody you give permission to monitor your life, you know. So, but sometimes you need somebody who has done well in your field and consult with them, seek guidance from them. But we just have to pray it doesn't become a permanent feature.
Right.
Because you don't want to go to school and stay in class one forever, or you know, even when you go to school, at a certain point you graduate. So supervision over your life is only for a phase of your life. At a certain point, everybody has to find a way to manage their lives.
Help me understand Proverbs 6, the ant, having no overseer. The Bible seems to commend the ant for being able to be self-driven, self-disciplined. Would it be the case then that even if a mentor, a coach, an accountability partner brings some extra strength to you, there must be something that the person must invest, or they can possibly torpedo the effort, even if somebody else tries to help them up?
The Bible talks about different animals which have, or insects, the ant, the bee, which have no real commander, director, and yet achieve. But when you look at the context, although they have no commander, it's not an individual achievement, it's a group achievement, which is even more difficult. It's like a choir without a conductor that sings on cue, an orchestra without a conductor that plays on cue, a football team without a coach that plays and wins. It's very easy to be disciplined as an individual, and sometimes difficult to be disciplined in a group, because most people lose discipline in groups. You know, they belong to a group and they pick up bad habits, you know. So they work in a place and they forget that it's their life, and they find somebody's late, so they're also late. And then they pick up bad habits, or they belong to one group or the other. People are lukewarm, they also become lukewarm. But the picture is of a group which is not being whipped, a workforce that is not being driven, but drives itself. So there are two levels of motivation: personal motivation to perform, but also to perform in synchrony with a group, and be able to cooperate with others to achieve something great. And I think that is probably one of the most phenomenal thing, to see people who can perform as individuals, but also can perform in a group.
But you got my attention right there, because every one of us can relate to that first one and say, listen, lift yourself up. It's your life, live it. But averting ourselves to the fact that there is also a collective expectation of us to deliver. Imagine that, Pastor, that there's a choir sitting in front of you listening today, a team of pastors who have to work together listening to you today, a group of footballers, a group of academics, any collective of people with a shared aspiration, and recognizing what you said, that it's possible that bad habits may begin to emerge within the group. How do they find the collective strength to navigate this new year we have entered?
I think sometimes it takes an external force to alert you to it. And then it takes a critical number. It may not be the whole group, but maybe one or two who build a different habit, and everybody watches and say, "Oh, we think," you know, and they imitate, and pretty soon it becomes a group dynamic. So it could be that all of them are failing and all of them are unhappy, so they wake up. It could be like the four lepers outside the gates of Samaria who say to each other, why do we sit here and die? And they all wake up. It could be one person suggesting it, but I think somehow something in one or two should drive the rest of the team to find the strength to change.
I like the wake up. Is the beginning of the year also a time for some people to wake up?
Because the year doesn't live itself out. It's not as if 2026 comes and life is good. One of the things that happens in churches, especially in the charismatic world, is that pastors, leaders like myself and others, we make declarations over people's lives, which is good. It's good for you to hear something that is good. But sometimes I think people mistake it to think that just because it has been said, it will happen. And it doesn't work that way. We have to work with a word. We have to take a word as a charge. If, for example, I tell you, you will march from A to B, that's a declaration I've made over your life. You will march from this point to that point. And you decide, oh, wow, Pastor says I'm going to march from this point to that point. So I sit at the beginning point, but somehow because he has said it, I will march. No, you have to then take my word over your life as an inspiration that I'm going to march from this place to that place. So the word only came to alert you to something that must happen in your life, but you are not a passenger. You are a partaker of that. You are going to take the steps there. So people go for services. They say the anointing was great. The word was prophetic. It was powerful. And somehow they think the word will fulfill itself. It doesn't. We have to live by faith. We have to live each day by faith. If there's a word that God will satisfy you with long life, you don't go and eat bad food and you are eating fat and you are poisoning your system because I'm going to live long life. No, I think in one of our broadcasts I said that if you expect to live long, and you're traveling on a journey, you don't say, because I believe God will protect me and I'll live long, I will not put on my seatbelt and I would overspeed. Because you expect to live long, you put on your seatbelt and you stay within this. So that word over your life must inspire an action that is in consonance with the word spoken over your life. So there is a role each one of us play in bringing to pass that which has been spoken over our lives.
So here I am saying, then maybe that is the difference between the resolution and the concrete plan. It would seem that one is based on a lot of hype with no concrete foundations, and one sits down and looks for alignment between what has been said, where I'm supposed to be, what I must do, day one, day two, day three. Is that a good summary of what you're seeing?
I think so. I mean, there are people who can do that. There are people who hear something and instantly process it strategically, even without thinking. Their mind has been trained over the years to hear something and think of it in phases. And there are people who can do that. Everything is modeled. Everything is together in a complicated. They can't get the pieces out. And I think if you find you are like that things look too much in your mind, you need to sometimes sit with people to help you to get the strands out. Because those who see a process in a big mass are able to follow a plan. Those who don't see that, everything looks muddled. They know the year will be great. They know they will do great things. They know they will build their house. They know they will buy land. They know they will travel. They know they will buy a car. They know they will marry. But all of these things require some steps, some actions, some deliberate actions taken. So if you just look at them as one bundle, that will happen. You may then go through the year and feel God has disappointed you, God has failed you. So if you're not able to, get somebody who helps you, or maybe just get a friend and say, listen, this is what I'm thinking of. I want to do A, B, C. What do you think I should be doing? And sometimes two heads are better than one. Just with another person helping you, he may not even be an expert, but he can help you to resolve some parts. Of course, if you get an expert, it's so much better. But sometimes just talking things through with somebody else helps us to clarify our thoughts better.
This framework, is it applicable in, let's say, spiritual, family or marital, finance, health, business, and every area of our lives?
I think so. I mean, I can look at my life and say that much of my life is how I wanted to be. So from my marriage, so many things of my life is I plan it. Sometimes I write it down. I think of what I should be doing, what sacrifices I should be making, what kind of plan should I make, how do I do that? And sometimes even in your marriage, you have to realize that in order to have a good marriage, you have to learn to be less aggravating, and sometimes to say yes when everything in you is screaming no.
Tell us about that one.
So because I have an ultimate motive that I want my marriage to work. I don't want to go home and be sad in my own home. I want to go home and be happy. I want my wife to be happy. I want both of us, especially when you grow and you're alone, to be in your house alone and be happy. But that doesn't happen by itself. It happens by deliberate choices you're making. So it runs through everything.
I should move on, but this topic,
Yeah.
I hope we can make time to have serious conversations about family, about relationships, because, Pastor, every single day, talk to any psychologist, talk to any counselor, 80% of the issues are about relationships, and people just don't want to give up on a position they've taken. They must defend it, and they must win.
Yeah, marriage is tough. I saw my own parents' marriage. It wasn't a good one. So one of the resolutions I made for myself when I was very young, as a teenager, I'm going to have a good marriage, and I'm not going to be like my father, and I'm going to treat my wife well. No matter who I marry, they're going to have a good marriage.
Wow.
And it's one thing saying it, another thing marrying and realizing all the adjustments you need to make in order for that to happen. So sometimes adjustment is very painful. You feel like you're dying. It's almost like a death to yourself. But every resurrection requires death, isn't it? So we want to reap the fruit of resurrection, but we don't want to die. So the Christian life is a death to self.
Is that what the Bible means by self-denial?
When you read the New Testament in particular, you find that one of the recurring ideas for the Christian life is self-control, is sacrifice, it's self-denial. I mean, that theme goes through the whole of the New Testament, from the teachings of Christ to the apostles to the epistles. It's all there. So the life of Christ, as much as his death redeems us, his death is also an example to us. That if we want a better life, we have to take up our cross and follow.
So, still exploring the kind of thinking we need to have a great year. Let's talk about the leader who has responsibility for other people, the employer who oversees people, the pastor who has a large congregation. Walk me through some of the reflections a person like that must have as they prepare for the new year, particularly bearing in mind that your life is not just about yourself, but about all those people who look up to you. What are some of the reflections a person like that must have?
I mean, what we try to do in our church as pastors is, well, because I'm the general overseer, I have to provide guidance. So every year, 2 months before the year ends, we have lots of activities. One of them is the theme for the year. And then we do assessment, we do work plan, we do quite a lot between late November to early December, winding down the year, opening up the new year. So I always tell the pastors, the reason we give this notice early is so that you can plan for your life, plan for the congregation, plan for the sermons you're going to preach, what kind of direction are you going to go, what goals are you setting for the church. All of these things require a little forward thinking. Of course, in the new year, you still need planning, but just getting a little ahead helps you so that by the time you start the new year, you are not running helter-skelter, trying to figure out what to do. You have a sense of how the first quarter should go, and then you work through the rest of the quarter. So I think it works for the church, it works for a family, it works for companies. Most companies go through this, just forward thinking. So it's always important that we do something before the end of the year into the new year. But even if you didn't do it, the first week or two of a new year is a good enough time to plan for the rest of the year.
There are some who can relate to the church as a spiritual entity, or pastoring a church as a spiritual exercise. What you describe is a science. What you describe is a strategic endeavor. For those who struggle to accept that science, that strategy is part of ministry or pastoring, what will be your response?
Well, people try to draw this dichotomy. This is sacred, this is secular, this is carnal, this is spiritual. This is, but most times we need a collaboration of different activities. We need planning, we need God's favor, we need the power of the Holy Spirit. But at the same time, we need to program our lives. You can't say because of the power of the Holy Spirit, we just go with the flow. Because God is eternal. He never sleeps nor slumbers. So if we're going on God's plan, it means when a church service starts, it will never end. Because God neither sleeps nor slumbers. There is no moment when God is not working. Because sometimes people say, why do you have a church service and you have put time as if you are timing God? Because God is eternal. He's tireless. If I'm going to go by the way God works, then the moment I start, I can't sleep because he neither sleeps. He doesn't slumber. I can't rest. I have to zoom. Who can survive that? So I think sometimes we impose wrong rigor on ourselves. There are different parts that make things work. Planning, programming, time, sticking to time, working with time, starting and finish, making sure that within time frames things can be done and apportioned, purpose, all of that must work. So when you have no respect for time, you have no respect for purpose.
And we can comfortably call this the mind of Christ.
Well, I mean, we can naively call it spiritual, but it's not spiritual. Jesus slept. He woke up. He worked with time. Everything in the Bible. Look through the Bible. I don't know how people see the Bible, but you see purpose, you see process, you see delineation of time. You see when things happen, when things don't happen. Things don't happen all the time in the same way. Things start and they end.
Pastor, I've enjoyed this conversation so much, and it's an amazing way to start the year. By the grace of God, we have listening, watching us today, several people who traveled with us through last year on this journey and who have come afresh to start another journey with us in the year 2026. What will be a message to our viewers and our listeners as we embark on this journey this year?
Well, I mean, I can't promise you instant resolution of your problems. I can't. I can tell you God can work in your lives, God can work miracles for you. But I can't promise that you will just sit and things will happen. And I can't promise that if you do nothing, 2026 will work out well for you. All I can tell you is that we serve a faithful God, a God of purpose, a God of plan, a God of action. And that if we work with his processes systematically, we can measure progress. We can measure development. We can measure change. You can look at your life and say, I was here at this time. I have moved and I'm there. I didn't have this time. I have this now. I want your life to make a measurable progress that you can look at to enhance your own confidence in God. That if he took you from there and brought you here, then he can take you from here over to the other side. God is working with you throughout 2026. Each day is a day of purpose. Let each day be purposeful, each week be purposeful. Work with God, plan well, trust him for the things you cannot do, and allow him to work through your thoughts and through your actions. And at the end of 2026, we will gather and say, see what the Lord has done. What we've waited for has come to pass. And that will be your testimony in Jesus' name. We'll catch you again. God bless you.
We believe this video was very helpful. If you have any question or comment, please leave it in the comment section below. Don't forget to like this video, share and subscribe to our channel. See you in our next video. Thank you.